Joining us now is Cyd Zeigler. Cyd is the co-founder of Outsports.com, the world's leading gay sports publication, and he is the author of the book he is going to discuss with us now, Fair Play, How LGBT Athletes Are Claiming Their Rightful Place in Sports. He's also been associate editor of the New York Blade and sports editor for Genre Magazine. Cyd, how are you doing?
Well, I was just in Europe for a week, so I'm still recovering a little bit.
Oh, well, that's a quality kind of recovering. And as you know, folks here have had a tough week, but we're all coming back from it. So first of all, I want to ask you, since it's an interesting subject, but before we get to it, Outsports, I see it says on your website it is the galactic leader in gay sports. A bold claim, my friend. How do you know for sure? Have you explored every corner of the Milky Way, or?
I'm gonna take a leap and say that we're in good standing there. The problem, we used to call ourselves the worldwide leader in gay sports, but when Vox Media acquired us a few years ago, of course, ESPN calls themselves the worldwide leader in sports. So we figured maybe since we were being acquired by a competitor, we should slightly change our tagline to something a little more tongue-in-cheek.
That may have been prudent on your part. Here's what amazes me, and I think this fits in with the topic of your book. It amazes me that it's 2016 and that athletes coming out is still a big deal, and that it's still rare, and that the Michael Sam thing was such a, why are we? It feels like when it comes to athletics that, as a nation as a whole, we're not where we need to be culturally, but it feels like athletics is about a quarter of a century behind.
Well, I just don't know that that's true. I think that coming out is a big deal. Whether you talk to kids inside or outside of sports, coming out is still a scary thing. There are plenty of actors in Hollywood and politicians in Washington, D.C. and Sacramento and Albany who aren't out. And I look across the sports world, and you can only look at a small handful of men who are out, but there are plenty of women in the professional ranks who are out, a countless number of collegiate athletes and high school athletes who are. So, I think that we still live in a world where from the very first day where they were born, we are told that we're straight. The images in the media tell us that we're straight. Our parents tell us that we're straight. Our teachers tell us that we're straight. Our friends tell us that we're straight. So whether you're in sports or outside of sports, it's still difficult to come out. But of course, the big secret is that once you come out and you are out and you find a community that you wish you had done it so many years earlier.
Yeah, I had a nephew who came out to me once, and that's what I tried to tell him was, right now you feel completely alone. You won't the rest of your life. You'll feel so much better. But I guess, and I take your admonition to heart. I guess I was thinking more when I said that. I was picturing baseball and football. That it seems rarer there. Yes, it's too rare. There are too many people who still feel frightened in the closet in all walks of life and in all walks of sports, but it seems especially baseball, football, maybe basketball. It's not as commonplace as you might expect it to be. You think I'm wrong?
Well, how many A-list Hollywood movie actors are out?
Well, good.
0. How many U.S. senators are out? I believe it's 0. Maybe there's 1.
No, you're right. Actually, you're right. Point well taken. Yeah, I guess.
So I think listen.
Who am I thinking when people so progressive? As I think about it, I guess it's just I don't know my friends. I don't know. I don't know who I was picturing, and judging athletes against. You're right.
Well, listen. Again, the sports world has long been held up as this homophobic institution, and many of us when we were young, particularly many young gay boys, felt uncomfortable in the locker room. Maybe our classmates identified that we were gay or could see that we were gay and teased us in class. The jocks came to represent homophobia, and so we've been raised not just to think that we're straight, but that we also don't belong in the sports world if we are gay. So I think it's hard for people to let go of some of that. And when I talk to athletes in Out Sports, we have written about hundreds and hundreds of high school and college and professional athletes, and every single one of them has the same core elements of their story. They were desperately afraid to come out because they feared rejection from their teammates. When they did come out, they found nothing but embrace and acceptance from their teammates. Some of the teammates who had said the most anti-LGBT things before they came out were the ones who apologized the most profusely, and they all wondered why they didn't do this sooner. So we've always been told that the sports world is this desperately homophobic place. What we've found is it's simply not that way. Athletes, in 2012, there was a survey done of NFL players, and at the time, 60% of them supported same-sex marriage. At the same time, less than 50% of the average Americans supported it. The NFL players were ahead of America on same-sex marriage in 2012. So we just, it's taking us.
They were ahead of Hillary Clinton too. I'm just going to throw that in. But,
right. Yeah, exactly.
Listen, it's a great point. And Cyd, we're talking with Cyd Zeigler. CYD is Cyd Zeigler, and his new book is Fair Play: How LGBT Athletes Are Claiming Their Rightful Place in Sports. So is this essentially what the book is telling us, that LGBT athletes are claiming their rightful place in sports, and sports is in effect certainly leading the way or keeping pace, or is that part of what you're communicating in the book?
Well, I think I don't know if it's leading or following the rest of the culture, but it's going hand in hand. The power of sports in our culture. There's a great line in the movie Concussion that says, essentially, the church used to own a day of the week. The NFL now owns that day. That's the power of sports in American culture. And so you can't move the needle on social issues like LGBT issues without sports. They go hand in hand. But I think, a lot of the book is talking about how sports have changed. And, we look through the lens of religion, and we look through the lens of the locker room, hazing, trans issues, gender, and all different ways how it's changed. And, I talk about how, just as in the general culture, the reason we have marriage is because we have been coming out. Coming out is the most powerful tool. Coming out and being out are the most powerful tools we have to combat homophobia and transphobia, because when people get to know us, they get to like us. So that's really what the book talks about, is showing how the sports world is ready for you to be out. And if you come out, you will see that and help change the few minds and hearts that still need changing.
One of the things you mentioned, Cyd, is that gay athletes, when they come, LGBT athletes, when they come out, they have tended to get tremendous support and acceptance and love from their teammates. Yesterday I interviewed, on another program, I interviewed Sebastian Junger, who wrote the book The Perfect Storm, and his new book is about tribal connections. It's called Tribe, and the kind of brotherhood, sisterhood that happens, especially, using the military as an example. And he was saying that fulfills a basic human need. I'm wondering if sports teams, in a sense, aren't another kind of brotherhood/sisterhood affiliation, and whether maybe that can even be an unexpected gift to gay athletes who come out.
Well, listen. For me, when I came out, and when I was 23, I was living in Los Angeles, and it was 2 weeks before Pride, and I went to the LA Pride at the time, and I remember feeling uncomfortable in West Hollywood. Like, I don't know if this is really me. At the time, I didn't like dance music. That's changed. At the time, I didn't really associate with guys and wearing next to no clothes. That's changed, thank God. But where I did find a home was there was a booth for the LA Gay Flag Football League. And sports immediately became intertwined with my identity as a gay man because all of my friends were part of this league, and I found my identity as a gay man at the same time as I really, dove into my identity as an athlete. And I've always been a sports fan. So for me, sports is an incredibly powerful community builder. I think it's the most powerful community builder that we have in our culture. I can go to a sports bar anywhere in the country, and if there's an NFL game playing, I will make great friends for the afternoon just because of our connection through football. So I just think that the sports world holds a lot of great life lessons and ability to build community for anybody who's LGBT and is willing to dive into sports.
So in a sense, there's this, it's really interesting, and it kind of fits in with what I was, sort of exploring as we were talking, the connection with Sebastian Junger's book in a way. But I'm wondering, too, about, there's the cliche of that gay men are not athletic, or, there's a stereotype out there, as you know. And I'm wondering if in some sense that might keep some gay people from, make them reluctant or make them feel that they might not be welcomed or something. Do you know what I'm driving at? Does that make any sense to you, that stereotype needs to be challenged too?
Well, one of the things that I do hear is that some particularly gay male athletes don't want to come out because they will then be perceived as weaker by their teammates or their opponents. And it's so, it is such a ridiculous stereotype. If you look at some of the people who have come out in sports, Jason Collins was known as a bit of an enforcer in the NBA. That was a guy you put in for a few minutes to collect some big, tough, hard fouls. Michael Sam and Sarachuola were both defensive ends, incredibly strong guys. Dave Kopay was known as a bruiser in the NFL in the 60s and 70s. So some of the gay men who've come out in sports, in college and in the pros, are some of the toughest guys in the sport. So I think the stereotype does hurt gay people, particularly gay male athletes. And I think in a different way, the stereotype about women hurt lesbian athletes too. They don't because every female athlete is assumed to be a lesbian by a lot of people. Lesbian athletes don't want to contribute to that stereotype, so they stay closeted. So certainly stereotypes are really they're a powerful weapon that get used against us, no question.
So in all the gay athletes you've talked to and met in the course of your writing, do you have a favorite anecdote or a favorite personality?
Of the gay athletes that I've met, I'll tell you, probably my favorite athlete I've gotten to spend a lot of time with is Michael Irvin, who was the Hall of Fame wide receiver for the Dallas Cowboys. He's straight. His brother was gay. His brother died a few years ago. But Michael has this great story, and I wrote about it for Out Magazine years ago, and I talk about it in the book about when he first realized that his brother was gay back when he was a young kid, and his kind of struggles between religion and accepting his gay brother, and then the step that he wanted to take with me after I'd gotten to know him for a few years to really start talking about his brother, and he ended up appearing shirtless on the cover of Out Magazine, which really created a lot of ripples in the NFL and the professional sports world. I mean, a big macho guy like Michael Irvin going shirtless and showing his underwear on the cover of Gay Men's Magazine 5 years ago. That was a big deal at the time. So that story has lingered with me for years.
That's a great story, actually. We're talking with Cyd Zeigler, author of Fair Play: How LGBT Athletes Are Claiming Their Rightful Place in Sports. I guess we'll end with this, Cyd. Do you think the teams, the franchises, and the associations are doing enough to make it easier for gay athletes to be out in professional sports?
So one of the chapters in the book is called "The Big Lie of the Big Five." The Big Five meaning the Big Five Men's Pro Sports League. And the big lie is that gay athletes are a distraction that need to be kept away from pro sports because they might undermine a team's ability to succeed. And I completely destroy that myth. I talk about some of what the leagues are doing. All of the leagues are doing something. None of them are doing everything. I just wrote a column today about how much of the sports world has scrubbed the words gay and LGBT out of the Orlando massacre, which is such a shame. But the thing that I really point to the professional leagues, the commissioners of the leagues, the team owners, and the general managers, if they really want to end homophobia in sports, what they should do is identify the LGBT people in their leagues, sit down with them, if they have to, guarantee spots on teams if they have to, and help them come out publicly. If they really, really, really were committed to this, they would do that. But I just don't think they're committed.
Well, yeah, I hope that there's some fan pressure or some other things that can be done to make them committed. And by the way, I think it's a little ironic that they consider gay athletes a distraction, because some of those teams probably hire cheerleaders that would distract some of the straight athletes. So, it seems like a double standard to me. But listen, I am very interested in hearing more about your writing and following your work. Cyd Zeigler, author of Fair Play, How LGBT Athletes Are Claiming Their Rightful Place in Sports. Thanks for coming on the program.
Thanks for talking about it.